Welcome back everybody to Downtime with Destiny, and today I thought I'd share some essential watercolor techniques. Well, things that I thought that were helpful, things that I learned, and there's a couple things I even picked up before I started this video. Just to kind of give you as much as I possibly can, information-wise. So, hopefully you guys can enjoy it, and we'll go from there. So, in the beginning, I do want to share, these are the watercolors I have, and I know that they're not the best for the most part. So these are more of the cheaper options. Having 3 kids, you don't always get to pick what you want, especially when the kids rampage through your watercolor supplies. So, at this point, I'm going to show you the 3 that I got. I got Prang, which is cheap. They use in schools. It's a really great company and very well known. And then I also have a couple other ones, and I got these other ones from Walmart, and I don't know the brand very well. It's on there. I just don't know it very well. It's the cheap ones at Walmart. And I thought, especially with practicing, that cheap's the way to go. And then I can kind of see what I want and what I don't want and how I like things, specifically in this video. There are so many different kind of watercolors out there, and there's so many different companies that make watercolors. So you could pick something that works for you. And experimentation is like the best thing no matter what you try when it comes to art. I'm a huge fan of acrylic painting and watercolor, oil not so much, and we'll talk about that one day. But today is watercolor day, and I really like it because if you can work well with water, then you can achieve a lot of things. And honestly, with my stuff, it's really mediocre. So hopefully you guys like this little how-to essential thing for you guys, and yeah, don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you like it. So anyways, after this, we're going to talk about paintbrushes. And the paintbrushes I have, I mainly focus on acrylics. There are watercolor specialty paints. There's specific paintbrushes for watercolor, acrylic, oil. There's ones that you can trade in between. I have specific, I think they're acrylic paintbrushes to be honest, but they suit my needs, and so I use them for watercolor, which oil seems to be the one that kind of takes very specific brushes, and acrylic and watercolor you can kind of go in between. But anyways, buy a range of brushes. A lot of them come in packs, and the packs are fairly cheap. The one I'm showing you today was under, I think, $15. With this next set right here, I got this huge brush, and so the bigger the brushes, the more expensive they are. And just to tell you kind of what that means is the big brush in the middle was $30 by himself. I mean, I love him, don't get me wrong, I love this brush. It's a phenomenal brush, but it was $30. And then these other 2 sets I got, I believe, from Walmart as well, and they're just cheap, but they're really fine tipped, and I really like it. And you can honestly get really intricate with watercolor if you really want to. It's just how you want to play with it. I've had so many different watercolors, and it's all experimentation. What floats my boat at that point in time. So far, figure out what kind of paint you like, figure out what kind of brushes suit your needs, and you can always experiment later on in life too. You don't have to just stick with the same crap all the time. You can move on to something else. Anyway, so we're going to work on the next thing. So it's going to be exploring dry versus wet. So there's dry brushes and wet brushes. So what that means is you still have the watercolor, but there's less water. Water dilutes a lot of your paint. So when you get it really wet, it kind of gives you this free range. The color's not very solid. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it really works for certain things. And there's even books out there that use a lot of wet color techniques on some of the illustrations they have in their books. And so it's really phenomenal what you can actually do with wet stuff versus dry stuff. I've also used dry watercolor for fine lining and outlining and detailing and putting those like little wisps of hair or whatever it is that I want in my picture. And it really is, it's very universal, and I really like it. Don't forget to work from light to dark. It's always helpful to work from, well, dark to light, but it happens. But anyways, working and seeing kind of what things that you like. I know there's a lot of people that do watercolor painting that have a piece of paper just next to them, and so they can kind of like see how much watercolor works. Like with the tube watercolors that I use, I honestly sometimes add a lot to just a little bit of water because it makes it more prominent, like the praying colors that you've kind of been seeing and showing around. So it kind of just depends on what you want, but this was kind of just a tutorial, so I wanted to show you that you can do so much with these watercolors. And these are the cheap ones too. Just I can't wait to get some nice ones and imagine what the things that I can do. They might be a little bit better than what I've shown you so far. Anyways, don't forget to stock up on paper towels. I didn't have any paper towels around, so I just used a little bit of my paint cloth, which is just something that I wipe off my excess paint, or if I get it wet and I want to clean it off to get a different color, I use that as well. And that's just a ripped up old towel, honestly, just something that's been laying around. But I make sure to keep them very consistent. The watercolors are more likely to wash out if you actually wash them. Also, don't forget to splatter. Honestly, your paintbrushes and the first time you're ever learning, have fun with it. Throw the paint on the plate. It doesn't matter. I even have a spray bottle that I use sometimes, and I really love it. And I spray it, and then I kind of flick water on it, or I flick some paint on it, and you know, just the possibilities are really endless of just what you could possibly do with this. And I just wanted to kind of share some of these ideas with you. The next one, I want you to try to bleed colors into one another. So take two different colors. I mean, even like simple ones that mix together. So like yellow and blue mix and make green. So why don't you overlap them and see what they're doing? So I'm going to kind of show you how I do that. And everyone's different, so just wing it. I mean, try. That's all you got to do is try. That's the best part about art, and that's why I love art. It's all you got to do is try. It doesn't matter. And no matter what you do, it's always going to be very specific to you because you're unique and your painting is unique as well. So, it's one of my favorite things about painting. No one can ever copy me. Mwah! Anyways, let's go on to the next thing. So the next thing we got textures. And right now I'm just going to show you some simple grasses. Yeah, just simple grass, honestly, because it kind of shows you what you can do. You can do so much with paint, but getting specific like grass features or tree leaves or clouds in the sky are very difficult if you don't kind of have an idea what you're doing. So play around with your paint. Just think of something that you want to draw and you're like, man, I really want to draw a flower. Let's draw a flower, and then go from there. And so it's super helpful if you want to just play around, see what kind of textures you can get. And brushes do give you different textures, like I showed you before. It gives you different brush strokes and different shading. It really depends on how you handle your paintbrush, honestly. The next one is a pull-in color, and it didn't go very well. But anyways, when you apply dry, more saturated stroke, you can pull that stroke with just water. And this watercolor technique is a great way to show form and indicate a light source on the edge. So all you have to do is apply a stroke using very little water and more pigment. Before the stroke is dry, take a moderately wet brush and pull the color out from the darker stroke. You can pull color quite far depending on how dry the initial stroke is. And here I just failed hardcore, so we're just going to skip that one and go on, and I apologize. I'll probably show that in a later video. So this next one is layering your colors, and it's super cool. You can just kind of see, I'm going to throw up a couple different colors here, just kind of ones that mix together really well, and you can kind of see through them. And that's, you know, how we mix paints in the first place. We know we have the primary colors, which are yellow, red, and blue. We don't have anything else. That's what we worked off of. That's what we had in the very beginning. And so mix it together, see what kind of colors you can make. It's super cool. And if you haven't taken any art, it's definitely some way to try. This next one is called scumbling. Scumbling is a watercolor technique also used by many oil painters to create soft hues and layer pigment and light. You're essentially layering the color in soft, indirect layers to create a hue of what you want it to look like. Simply lay out some semi-wet strokes of paint color and just keep applying more and more and more. Mine's a little bit heavy duty on this one, but it's kind of showing you the idea that you can mix certain colors together and you can create like a beautiful wispy cloud in the sky, and it really just depends on how you kind of take that with it. Play with it. It's always fun. These next ones over here, I tried doing purple, and you're going to see me fail at this one. This is why I went over, and I also did green next. This one is called lifting the color, and I like using this technique if I put too much water into my painting. I really enjoy being able to take that brush and kind of dry and dabble some of that water back up with my paintbrush because it gives me more control than my paper towel, and it doesn't necessarily suck up all the water if I don't want it to be sucked up by the towel. So it's super cool. I really like it. It's kind of like a slightly usable eraser. So I think it's cool. This next one, I used a sponge to kind of take up the water. You can also paint with a sponge, and I encourage you to try painting with sponges because they're so awkward and weird, and you're like, all right, let's just do this. Anyways, over here, I thought this one was really cool. I learned this one back in, middle school, I think it was. And so this one's super cool. You add salt, and what you do is when you put the salt on top of it, and you can also, it gives it texture, but you can also take the salt off. I've tried it. Let it dry first, though. That's my key hint. But anyways, you put salt on it, and the salt actually sucks up the water and the paint into these little tiny droplets. So it gives you texture that you can actually feel. But if you want to take it off, it leaves like little tiny, like kind of like snowflake patterns. It's super cool, and I'm going to kind of show you what it looks like with the salt on there. This next one, I'm using just regular painting tape, and painter's tape doesn't really rip up your paper, so it's the best to do to copy. And I just threw some random shape in here. And I really like it because it gives you, if you're really good with it and you get that tape down nice and secure, you can get phenomenal looking lines, especially if you let it dry and everything else. And I like using it for like borders. Put like a piece of tape on each side of it. When you tape it down and stuff like that, do your watercolor and then lift it up, you're more likely to get a really nice looking border taping it. And whatever else. I mean, you could do buildings, you can do, straight lines. I've actually, a long time ago, I used to work at a daycare, and I actually made kids' names, and I cut the tape. It took me a few days, but I cut the tape and made their names out of each letter, and then I let them paint it. And so it's like they could get their actual letter of A, B, C, D, whatever it is, and it still had the curves and everything in there. So you could get really, really creative with tape, honestly, and I really enjoyed that. It's extensive, but it works out. And this last one, I want to kind of show you this one. Is just to give you an idea. You can draw. I'm a good drawer, and I really enjoy drawing. And so with this one is you draw it, and then you paint over it. And if you really want to get into it, you can also get the dry painting with the watercolor of black. And black, you can kind of outline, you can give detail, things like that. I did not show that in this video, and I apologize. I just kind of showed you that you can draw a picture, and then you can also paint over it. And there's points where you can still see it, and there's some people who even do like super light drawing where you can barely see it, but the person can see it. Kind of like a tattoo where you get that picture on the arm and the tattoo artist can follow it. It's kind of like a line like that. You can also erase it if you need to, but however it works for you. That's all it is. Hopefully you guys liked this. If you guys liked it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell next to it for more notifications on my next videos. And if you really enjoyed it, comment below, tell me what you think of this, and I will continue on with these videos if they're helpful and you really like them. I'm here to help. That's kind of my goal. I'm here to help while having fun at the same time. Anyways, thanks guys. I hope you have a wonderful day and much love. See you guys later. Alligator.